the lectures that we've heard today have been so good. I've kind of sound like I'm talking to the choir with all the information that I was going to give. So I think I'm going to go back kind of to my background where I got started. My father actually was a welder. Started out as a body and fender man, and in the early 50s got into the United Association of Pipe Fitters out of Pocatello, Idaho. We're farm type people. And he went to work at the what's called the Atomic Energy Commission, the old AEC. And of course, you had to get security clearances and all that. And he became very expert at stainless steel and Inconel and all those exotic metals they were using. There's a very little known Idaho National Reactor community out there that actually produced the first atomic submarine in the middle of Idaho. Nothing but jackrabbits and antelope and dirt. But somehow they built a submarine out there, the first nuclear submarine. Later, we moved to Los Angeles, and this all kind of falls into how I got started into welding. When you have a facility in a very small area, you're either working a lot or you're totally out of work. So we moved to Los Angeles so he could work in the actually, Los Angeles is going to go into a water treatment business. They were going to move the salt water and transfer it to clean water. So he came to Los Angeles actually to do that, but the controversial thing, they were going to use atomic power to do this. Well, that didn't go over too good, so they decided to scrap that, and he ended up just staying in the Los Angeles area in the welding field. As I got into my older high school years, I really didn't want to have much to do with welding after seeing how hard he worked, so I decided to go into into biology. But after one course of chemistry and biology in the community college, I decided I'd go down and try the welding shop out. And he also got me a job as a welder's helper. And it took about 3 days on his job for me to figure out that I wanted to be in that field. So you start out as a helper, and you learn the materials, you learn the language. I tell my students, you know, if I went down to the beach down in Southern California and tried to talk to those surfers, I wouldn't have a clue what they were saying, and they wouldn't understand me because I don't know that surfer language, you know. So when you go to the welding field, you have to learn the language, you have to learn the materials, and that's what you do your earlier years. However, in the middle of getting into the apprenticeship program in the United Association, President Nixon decided I was more important to the security of the United States. So I was one of the last of the draftees, born in '52, so that was the last of the draftee years, and went down and talked to the recruitment guy, and I said, you know, I just got drafted, but I'd like to know some of my options. Well, he said, what would you like to do? I said, I'd like to go to your welding school. And this was an Army recruiter. He said, okay, well, we can't tell you anything until you take these tests, right? Well, you take these tests, it kind of gets you a little bit more committed. So I come back from the test, and he says, son, you can do anything you want to in this man's Army. I said, well, I still want to go to that welding school. He said, I just told you you could do anything you wanted to in this man's Army. We can put you in the medical field, we can make an eye doctor out of you. And he gave me all these other positions I could have. I said, I still want to go to your welding school. After him scratching his head for a while, he said, okay, I'll send you to the welder school. And I did go to Aberdeen Proving Grounds and was in the formal welding school there. I learned a really, really good lesson at that school besides just basic welding. We had a couple of Nigerian students, and they were doing very well too. And we ended up at the last week, I was the head of the class. And being the head of the class wasn't as much of a deal as you got a promotion. So I was going to go from private to PFC with this, finishing this class #1. And our last project was a welding project. And I did a 7018 vertical, and it looked terrible. And I thought, oh man, here goes my position. This Nigerian guy was right on back of me. So I decided, you know what have I got to lose? I'm going to crank that heat up, and I'm going to lay me a 70-18 pass vertical up. Whatever happens, happens. Well, you know, that extra heat made that weld look beautiful. And I've never forgot that lesson. I've told it to all my students that, you know, you can't weld cold. Most welding students want to weld everything cold. So we got that out of the way. I got my promotion, stayed in the military for my total 3 years. However, shortly after my year was over, they decided they're going to let all the draftees go. So here I was with a 3-year commitment when I could have got out probably in 18 months. But it worked out really great. Went back in the metal trades in the United Association, working with my dad at a fab shop. And within a few short months after that, I took my pipe welding test for the UA and passed it. And I became a journeyman in 1976. And from then on, I worked mostly in the Los Angeles area, but I did travel, went back to my Idaho connections, and I worked at that Idaho National Engineer Laboratories. I didn't get to meet the gentleman, he spoke earlier, that was from there. Idaho's not a really populated state, so I kind of wanted to see where he was from. Anyway, working through the union, I worked in nuclear plants to start with in our early years. We did a lot of critical welding in nuclear. When that started kind of slowing down, it was powerhouses, coal fire, a few down there in Los Angeles. We have also a lot of oil refineries. I worked at all the major oil refinery work. And even at times I'd do some commercial work at high rises and a few things like that. And it got to the point where one of my good friends named Friend Henry had gone into Cerritos Community College to do teaching. And he kind of recruited me to be a part-timer. So I did about 10 years of working in the trade and teaching a couple classes at night. Mr. Henry and Mr. Johnson down there at Cerritos really helped me learn how to teach. Received my AA degree as well at Cerritos College. Orange Coast College is where I'm working now. Had an opening for a full-time instructor, and I really had a decision to make. I had over 26 years in the union, and really was kind of a tough move. Was going to take less pay for a while, but I decided to make the move, and it's worked out really well for me. Learned so much about the welding field. I went into the welding field as a very specialized pipe welder, and stainless steel, TIG, in the nuclear field was kind of my specialty. So teaching at a community college where you're teaching all aspects of welding really opens your eyes. I also got my certified welding inspector license, educator as well, and really began to focusing on how really best to teach a student. And that's kind of what I would like to emphasize today. And this is going to be kind of short on the short side because a lot of the information that we've heard today, really great stuff, I agree with. Community colleges, we're struggling. I guess we have more community college struggling here. We're really looking for more donations, and that just doesn't seem to happen. We have a couple of manufacturers that donate materials to us down in Los Angeles for practicing, but you never have enough. In fact, one of the reasons I hesitated even coming here is because there is no substitute for me for these last couple of days at the college. So, my students were kind of split between, yeah, go and get your award, or no, we want you to stay here so we can weld, because we're losing 2 days of welding when you're gone, because we can't afford a substitute anymore. So, I'm, listening to the last lecture, and I'm agreeing with what I'm seeing there. We are teaching basic welding skills at this community college. However, we also have some academic courses that some of the community colleges don't have. We were fortunate to still have a metallurgy program. In fact, we have a poster out here from our students under the 2-year program. I think they're going to win because there's only one poster for them. They've done a really good job. We have a retired Boeing metallurgist that came in and is really doing a real good job. We have the equipment to do metallurgy. labs. They're polishing samples, they're looking at a microscope, they're printing out what's going on. So we really feel that we're doing a good job in that side. We also have an inspection and testing class, which we're doing a lot of the information that a student would need to be to maybe advance him into the certified welding inspector classes. He's going to learn all the basic inspections. We've recently purchased through a grant, Vatea funds, which is now Carl Perkins again, was Carl Perkins, Vatea, now Carl Perkins. We've got some inspection testing equipment that's helped us continue that program, so we feel it's still a viable program that will teach the students what they need. We also have what we call a codes and specification class, which we actually help a student work through building a welding procedure and then going through the testing of that welding procedure and then the testing of the welder. And we teach them actually how to go through all the documents and write up a welding procedure. And right now I'm teaching, which we're going to miss today, a math and fabrication class. We went back to basic math. I mean, we're starting with this is a ruler and this is what an inch segment looks like. And we have a lot of students that understand that, but we also have a lot that don't. So we're going back to the basics with math, and we prepare them with math towards the welding field. And I found in the last 2 times I've taught this class that a lot of the students that told me that they just hated math could relate that to welding, and they've done much, much better. We also have a fabrication with that. So not only are we in the classroom, we're going out in the lab, and they're making projects, and we're looking at their quality. We're measuring for tolerances, and we're putting I-beams together. We're making brackets with the angle iron. We're laying out pipe to make 2-piece 90s, 3-piece 90s, and laterals. Some which they may never use in the real world because you can just buy a 90 anymore, but it gives them the basic layout procedures on that. Not only that, it helps them to learn that if you cut it right, you do less grinding. So they hate to do grinding. So we've found from our advisory committees in our area that we've produced some fairly good welders. We do certify close to 30 to 60 welders in a semester, mostly for the LA City license, which includes a written test that they have to take downtown in Los Angeles with the D11 code book. So we go through the code book and help them study for that. There's also a general knowledge portion of that test. So we feel when they get through and become a certified welder in Los Angeles, they actually get a license from Los Angeles City, that they've done a fairly good job. Our next thing that we think about is, are they going to be employed? And the ironworkers in Los Angeles has slowed down recently, but we're hearing that it's picking up. Most of the work that we're hearing, though, in our area is pipe welders. And it's quite a stretch yet to be an structural welder to a pipe welder. So there's quite a bit more instruction that they need for that. So our advisory committee meeting, and we have heard from the people in our area that we need people that can fabricate, can read blueprints. We also have a blueprint reading class, so that we're giving the end consumer, the contractor, the product that they're looking for. We don't want to be training people for something that's not needed. So we try to keep in touch with the advisory committee people. The problem we've had with funding, we fought off fairly well. They haven't tried to get rid of our program. In fact, they're pretty proud of our program at Orange Coast College. However, budgets have gone down significantly, and we've tried to have help from outside sources. And my thinking is, the contractor is getting a skilled welder, a certified welder, without really much training. The only organizations that do a lot of training, of course, are the union organizations. And being from the United Association, they have a great apprenticeship program. But for every hour I ever worked in that system, I paid a certain dollar amount to the apprenticeship program. With the non-union side, they're getting the benefit of a trained welder, but they're really not putting out any money as far as that training goes. So I'd like to see that there would be some kind of a system where the contractor would get more involved in the educational side. And I'm sure that, as you talked about funding earlier, that doesn't look like gifts were increasing any over the many years. I don't know how that would happen. So I think the next thing as a community college teacher, I'm really trying to communicate to these students that it's certification that really gets you where you want to be. You can come in and learn how to weld, and you can go in your garage and you can build your motorcycle, you can fix your car, but you're not going to get that top money or those top jobs until you get certified, which takes a lot of effort. In fact, even after you're certified at my facility, there's a lot to learn on the job, a whole lot to learn on the job. I remember when I first broke out, I was in a fabrication shop for a while, and we had turning machines, and you roll the pipe and you weld basically on top. And my dad said, hey, you know what, you got to get out of here. You got to go to work in the field and see what it's really like. And I went to, actually it was the Arco refinery in Los Angeles at the time. And you know, I'm struggling with the appearance of my welds a little bit. They weren't as good as I wanted them to look. And I'm looking at all these old-time guys welding out there, and they're just really good. I went over to this older gentleman, pipe welder, and I said, you know, I'm in for any tips you could give me on how to make the bottom of my weld, you know, really look good. Like, you know, I can weld that top half really nice, you know. And he looked at me and he kind of sighed and he said, you know, I can tell you how to make the top of your weld look like the bottom of your weld. I said, please, I'd really like to know that secret. He said, okay. He said, screw up the top. Well, that kind of eased the nerves, it eased the tension, and I welded much better after that. You know, I was just a little too nervous, thinking too much about it. So what I've told my students, not only in the classroom, but also out welding, is, you know, don't think so much about whether you're going to do something right or wrong. Think about the content. Don't think about if you're going to pass the test or not pass the test. Think about the material. If you put as much thinking into the effort of learning the material and not so much effort into worrying about the results, you're going to have good results. So I got good results after I quit worrying about it, and I think that's a lesson that I've passed on. One of the other things I have learned is, you know, I was a very good welder. I could go out there and I could demo for those guys all day long, and walk away thinking, you know, that was really a good weld. I found out that really wasn't helping them so much, though, however. I do very little demoing now, and I do more watching. I watch what they do, I talk them through it. I make them weld so that I can watch them instead of them watching me. And that's worked out much better. I think they've increased much more. I use a lot of positive information for them. The good job that we heard about earlier today works excellent. I think that's the best way to do it. The intimidation way, how it used to be, when I came up, it was mostly World War II vets that were in the welding field, and including my dad and those gentlemen. They were tough guys. They just expected you to do it. You know, the being on time, all that was just drilled into you in those days. And we have a different society now. So the life skills that we heard about earlier today, being on time, not leaving early, picking up when you're supposed to pick up, all that stuff has to be drilled into to students at this age. I don't know if you guys all feel the same way. The contractor still wants a day's pay for a day's work for a day's pay. So I try to instill that. The worst thing you can do on a construction job is to be late because they've set up their crews, they're out there working already, and you come in late. Where do they put you? What do they do with you? So you've kind of ruined their day. So I like to impart the life skills along with the welding. I like to watch them weld. I really get a kick out of it when they improve and the light comes on, and that's easy to say in the welding field. But you guys that are educators know what it's like. I had a student in Cerritos that he was really doing a fair job, but he just wasn't doing an exceptional job, and I knew he could. And I was watching him, and I was suggesting this and suggesting that, and he just wasn't working, you know, on those areas. So he struggled for 2 or 3 weeks, came back one week, and he was just changed totally, really welding great. I said, what happened? What'd you do that got you welding good? He said, well, I was talking to my dad, and he said, listen to that teacher. Maybe he knows what he's talking about. He said, so I just started doing what you told me to do, and here it is. It's looking like, you know, much, much better. So I think positive reinforcement, watching the student, and we're still on the hands-on side of the community college. Our community college is trying to be a transfer college, and they're transferring so many people, and they're so proud of the numbers that they transfer. And it's a fight right now on the vocational side to say, hey, you know, we're putting people to work. So one of the things that's really a challenge is to track the people that have gone to work. Where are they? Are they still working? Are they still in the welding field? That's a big challenge that we're having, and it's almost the point that the student themselves, after they left, need to stay in touch with us. They need to let us know what they're doing. It's just too hard to track people when they get outside of that area. So we're looking for still more grants and things like that for funding. We're finding those same situations that the rest of the community college are fighting, but we do feel that we're putting a good product out. The students are responding, and we're certifying many students, and our classes are full. Last summer, they wouldn't let us run a summer class, no summer classes. Budget was bad. So they gave us the opportunity to run what they call community ed at our college, which is basically, there's a whole lot of community classes that goes through most community colleges, anywhere from learning how to fly fish to, you know, riding a bicycle. So I put out a class, and I charged $350 for the student. We thought, it's not going to go. I had students knocking at the door to get in. We ran up to our maximum, and I had to turn a few away. And we thought, well, it just won't work at that kind of money. But they're seeing what's happening. They wanted to continue the welding program and not have a time off in the summer. So we were really surprised at the amount of money that the student would pay. They complained, but they paid and came in, and they got their classes. So with that, I think I'll end. Ask if anybody has any questions. I think I didn't want to just go over a lot of information that had already been told today, because I just thought it was a great day. We had a lot of good lectures here, and I've learned a lot myself. We're good.